What is Cannock Chase? Seems a really simple question, but I bet if I ask each and every one of you individually, what is Cannock Chase? Each and every one of you will give me a different answer, and you will all be correct. Cannock Chase is an area roughly you should consider to be 68 square kilometres. It's an area of special scientific interest, it's an area of special area of conservation, it is an area of outstanding natural beauty. It has war graves, it has crown land, it has common land, it has Schedule 1 monuments on it, it has areas of geological importance. This is a colossal amount of landscape designations for an area 68 square kilometres in size. This is not the norm for England, it is a very special and very unusual place. Also, we can describe Cannock Chase by its designations, by the land upon it. We can also describe Cannock Chase by those people who are involved with it. We have all these local authorities at the top part here who have some interest, have some part to play in Cannock Chase. We have the RSPB, we have the AONB, we have the Forestry Commission, now in Forestry England, we have Natural England, we have dog walkers, horse riders, we have bird watchers, we have wildlife lovers, we've got Go Ape, we've got coffee bars, we've got the wildlife, we've got campers. All of this is also Cannock Chase. Now, myself and Christy, we have that little logo just there. We are the Cannock Chase SAC partnership, but in truth, that is a Cannock Chase SAC partnership. We do not work for any one local authority. We do not work for Staffordshire County Council. We do not work for Natural England or the Wildlife Trust or the National Trust. We work for all of them. This is a colossal, huge partnership of all the people who have an interest in the wildlife and habitat conservation of Cannock Chase. This gives us the ability to move freely around Cannock Chase and beyond to talk to the people we need to secure its future. So that's another way of looking at Cannock Chase. We've got the AONB border here, and here, in the centre, is Cannock Chase SAC. Cannock Chase SAC, Cannock Chase Special Area of Conservation, is designated on its European lowland heathland. It is a habitat of international importance and scarcity. It is the only special area of conservation solely within an area of outstanding natural beauty in the country. It is wholly unique. Now, another way of looking at it is by ownership. Cannock Chase AONB is the smallest AONB in the country. Now, usually that means when we go to a place like, say, Shropshire Hills, Shropshire Hills is owned by hundreds, thousands of individual landowners. Cannock Chase, due to its small size, is again unique, that over 3/4 of the total area is in the ownership of just 5 organisations. We have the National Trust at the top, the County Council here in Orange, the Forestry Commission owns the majority of it, the RSPB were going to be taking on the Senex land, and we have the Wildlife Trust. So these 5 organisations are key to the future of Cannock Chase because it is unique that so many few organisations own so much of an AONB. Now, Cannock Chase has in truth thousands of habitats on it. And if I was speaking here to a group of ecologists, everyone will be coming to talk about their favourite one. But for the point of the conversation we're having here, we are going to focus on just 3 habitats. At the top we have the heathland. The heathland, as I said, the European lowland heathland and the wet heath dominated by crossleaf heath. These are the reasons for that. These are the rarest of habitats. They are habitats which are dominated by with over 20% or more of dwarf subspecies. This is your ling heather, this is your bell heather, this is your cranberries, these are your bilberries. And it is acidic soil. It is soil which has never been improved for agriculture in its entire history. Going back thousands of years, it is irreplaceable. We also have ancient woodland, as you know well here in Brockton, up in Brockton Coppers. Woodlands which have persisted for at least 400 years, literally as old as we have detailed maps. These woodlands were on it. Over the 400 years of these constant habitats being in a place, the build-up of the biodiversity, the fungal species, the invertebrates, the bird life you have there is again unique. This is also an irreplaceable habitat. Once it is destroyed, we cannot build more 400-year-old trees. It will be lost forever. We also have huge amounts of plantation forest. Ecologically speaking, biodiversity speaking, it is not of the highest quality. It is not where we have the majority of our wildlife. But it is an important part of the makeup of Cannock Chase. It is, of course, an active forestry. It is a constantly changing forestry. It is being felled, it is being planted, it is being renewed. But when we're talking about the future of Cannock Chase, it is a vital part of our narrative, these 3 habitats. So, the bit you're all waiting for. Time to talk about some legislation. Now, the legislation which protects the special area of conservation is some of the strongest, actually no, the strongest wildlife legislation we have in this country. It is domestic legislation, it is English legislation. It is derived from the European Habitat Directive, but the directive just directs the UK to make laws. So that's where we have the habitat regulations. It is this legislation which defines and protects these species, these habitats of international importance. So powerful is this designation, it is completely illegal for a competent authority, that is any government organisation, county council, local council, parish, councils, anything related to government, to approve any plan or any scheme which could harm a SAC, either by itself or in combination with everything else that is going on in the world. It is completely illegal so to do. So this brings us on to the next question. What is hurting Cannock Chase? The truth is people visiting it. Cannock Chase is being destroyed by people coming to see its beauty, both ironically and without their knowledge. They don't mean to do so. These demographics are roughly broken down into walkers, dog walkers, horse riders and cyclists. And we have a huge evidence base going back 40 years recognising these impacts. Each of these demographics bring their own problems. So walkers bring erosion, they bring biosecurity issues, we have littering, we have habitat fragmentation. Habitat fragmentation is, the SAC itself is 1,200 plus hectares in size, and it is being cut into smaller and smaller pieces by people walking the routes over and over again, day after day, eroding away. Once the plants are dead, these are small plants, dwarf plants, it will take 20 years for a heather to grow to this size. Once it is gone, the footpaths start to erode. We have dogs. Dogs bring nutrient enrichment, which is a polite way of saying crapping. They are literally pooing on the soil. I said it is low nutrient, acid soil, never improved for infrastructure, and just the vast numbers of dogs we have visiting each year, thousands upon thousands of dogs, are literally changing the soil chemistry. Same is true for horse riding. Habitat fragmentation of horses cantering down these paths which are not meant or designed for horses, and they can do damage at a horse ride which can take 20 minutes, can do damage which will take 25 years to repair. And of course we have cycling. You'll be well aware of the problems of mountain biking, especially people creating new single track paths, specifically here in Brockton Coppice, using these 400-year-old trees, the roots of these ancient oaks, for jumps for their own enjoyment. They don't know that they are killing those trees, but it is ironic that trees which have lived through two great wars and seen history pass are now being killed by people's recreation, and they would no doubt see themselves as people who enjoy being in natural space. Let it be under no doubt, Cannock Chase is dying. We have evidence, ecological, biological evidence, for 40 years. The biodiversity is decreasing, the habitat is fragmentating. The vegetation is in a poorer state. We have increasing problems with fungal pathogens. We have increasing erosion. Cannock Chase is on a constant downward spiral. The habitats, the wildlife which you see here today, if it carries on at this rate, will not be here in 30 years' time, will not be here in 40 years' time. And I'm about to explain that things are about to get much, much worse for Cannock Chase. So, we now know that people visiting Cannock Chase are the cause, really, of the special area of conservation, this habitat's demise. So where do they go? We conducted a recent visitor survey in 2018. Some of you may have been asked or approached by one of our interviewers asking for people, what are you up to, where are you going? When we mapped everyone's journeys, you can see that a lot of people spend a majority of their time here in Sherbrooke Valley, so Brockton just there, here and around there. So when we turn it into a heat map to show where people spend the majority of the time, where people tend to go, we have these two loops which represent the single track mountain biking routes, but the next most visit areas on Cannock Chase is the Sherbrooke Valley, where the sites and the habitats are most sensitive. So okay, where are these people coming from? Well, it isn't just Brockton, finally. Cannock Chase has a colossal draw. As you'll find out later on, it has the largest zone of influence, for visitor influence, of any special area of conservation in the country. So in our 2018 visitor survey, these blue dots are a bit blurry in this one. You see all these dots, when we stopped and interviewed groups of people, this is their home postcode. And you can see here on the national map, Every blue dot represents somebody who travelled from home to Cannock Chase from the day. We've got people down in Bristol who have travelled to Cannock Chase and visited for the day. This is a absolutely massive zone of influence. There is no other special area of conservation like it in the country, with this colossal amount of pressure. Indeed, within an hour's drive of Cannock Chase, 3.2 million people live, all of which like to cram into this place on the weekend. So, that's a problem. What are we going to do about it? So, as I mentioned before under the SAC legislation, the habitat regulations, it is illegal for a local planning authority to approve any planned scheme development which could harm a SAC. Well, if we know that what is harming Cannock Chase is people visiting it, is people nearby and within, then what does that mean? Well, when we did our original visitor survey back in 2011, we worked out 50% of all visitors actually arrived from within 8 kilometres, but 75% arrived from 15 kilometres. 75%, the 75th percentile, is a nationally recognised standard. So 75% of all people begin their journey from 15 kilometres to Cannock Chase. So the local authorities back in 2011 said, okay, if we know that if you're within 15 kilometres of Cannock Chase, you are very likely to visit Cannock Chase at some point each year. So we did some house counting. How many new homes are going to be built from 2011 over the local plan period? So every local authority has a local plan looking 25 years or more in the future of what they're going to build, of what houses they're planning. We said, well, how many more homes are we going to build within 15 kilometres? And it came back, over 30,000 new homes are going to be built within 15 kilometres of Cannock Chase. So we follow a logic experiment here. Obviously, new dwellings equals new and more visitors. More visitors obviously equals increased damage to the SAC, and at a faster rate because there are more people coming. Therefore, local planning authorities are unable to approve any planning development for new houses within 15 kilometres of Cannock Chase. And of course, this is what we agreed, and we never built a house again. No, of course we can't do that. Local planning authorities are kind of in the business of approving houses. We're actually in a national housing crisis, which is also true and has to be recognised. Local planning authorities are under huge pressure to build new houses. So therefore, the only legal way to move forward is that developers must mitigate for their impact of development. So, what's this mitigation and how does it arrive? So here is Cannock Chase SAC, sitting in the middle. Here is its zone of influence, 15 kilometre zone of influence. And here we have the 8 kilometre zone we mentioned before, where 50% of all our visitors originate from. So, 6 local planning authorities have got together to form the partnership, and all of them have agreed that every new house within 8 kilometres of Cannock Chase SAC, so at Stafford, almost all of Cannock, Burntwood, Rugeley, every new home which is built will pay a fee, a developer contribution, a one-off fund which will go towards the sands. So, next question, what the hell are the sands? They are the strategic access management and monitoring measures, which is why we only ever refer to them as the sands. They are a colossal scheme of mitigation and improvement work to Cannock Chase. Currently, its budget sits just below £2 million, but that is likely to increase. As more houses and more houses are built, that funding will always increase to match it. What will this funding pay for? It's the 15-year programme of works. It pays not only for myself and Christy to be employed, for a mitigation team, for a conservation team to exist, but it pays for footpath improvements, car park improvements, signage improvements, education. Education is so lacking on Cannock Chase. Most people who visit it have no understanding of the wildlife around them or the harm they are inadvertently doing. And for the first time, we have been tasked with bringing a whole Cannock Chase approach to management. So, 2 strategies are in the process of being developed and hopefully should be created before the end of the year. A car parking strategy and a site user strategy. What are they going to do? They are long-term strategies. They are for 10 years, and they will likely be extended for as long as it's needed. They are a 10-year plus strategy for gradual and sustainable change. They must be pragmatic, they must be realistic. There's no point writing a strategy which is unachievable, which no one is going to want to do, which is impossible. These strategies can only recommend change which will improve the health of Cannock Chase. Like a mere case our mitigation conservation, it is literally illegal for us to make any recommendation or enact any work to Cannock Chase which could harm its ecology or could harm its wildlife. We have a mantra in our team. In order to fix Cannock Chase SAC, you must attempt to fix Cannock Chase. It is not a separate island, it is part of the whole. Cannock Chase is one whole thing, and to look at anything in isolation is to not understand the problem. This is a holistic approach. Now there is a huge wide range of site sensitivities that we have had to take into account. We have spent the last 2 years trying to understand on Cannock Chase. We need to understand not only what the visitor patterns are now, but what they are likely to be in the future. In the next 20 years, the types of people coming to visit Cannock Chase are very likely to change. We need to understand what the issues are for our key stakeholders are those 5 main landowners. What do they want to do? Where do they see themselves in the future? What sort of visitor centres do they want to run? We need to understand their desires, and we need to come up with something which is agreeable to everyone. All of the people, we are going to ask the stakeholders to work together, the landowners to work together to make a positive change for the wildlife. But therefore we can't ask them things which we know they will never do, or they will refuse. Or like I said, the strategies will fall apart. It is an all or nothing approach. So the first thing we realised, going back to our first question, what is Cannock Chase, is that everyone viewed Cannock Chase slightly differently. Realise what I'm saying. Everyone viewed Cannock Chase slightly differently. So we said, okay, for the first time, let's try and make Cannock Chase, you'll view it the same with the same eyes. We created a sensitivity map. So a sensitivity map is basically a traffic light system. And we said, okay, let's compile all the information we have about what makes Cannock Chase, what is sensitive in Cannock Chase. The protected birds, the archaeology, the phase 1 habitat maps, the landscape, the topography, where the biosecurity issues are, where the arson has occurred, where the antisocial behaviour is, where there's the littering. So, just to give you an idea, this map here is actually a map of all the archaeology in Cannock Chase. Like I said, this is a unique site. This is not the usual amount of archaeology you expect on an area. Cannock Chase is lousy with archaeology from Iron Age all the way through to the Great War, to the Second War, to the present day. It is a colossal amount of stuff which are just beneath our feet on Cannock Chase. So, we then convert this map here, the LiDAR map, into another heat map, splitting it into the 2 hexagons. This red area here represents this area here of where there's a lot of archaeology. So we're able to encode that some areas in Cannock Chase have more archaeology than others, and so they will be more sensitive to any works we do to the soil. And so there we go. Let's set in its reverse heat map. Red being areas of high archaeology, blue being areas of low archaeology. We don't stop at archaeology. Here is a map of Schedule 1 and red list birds and their nesting areas. Here's a topography of Cannock Chase. Obviously, we're very concerned about erosion of Cannock Chase, the destruction of the habitat. Steeper banks mean erosion will happen at a faster pace. That's just logical and common sense. So we need to look at the topography of Cannock Chase. So we took all of this information, there's so much more here, and we piled it into one giant map, the sensitivity map. And everyone, map was then went around for months and months, tweaks and tweaks, data after data piled in, to everyone in that partnership. All those organisations I pointed out to begin with agreed, this is what Cannock Chase is. This is the sensitive parts of Cannock Chase. These are the unsensitive parts of Cannock Chase. And you will recognise, of course, with you guys sitting just here, you're right next to the giant chili pepper, as we like to refer it to, the most sensitive part of a uniquely rare site. This was then converted into this larger one. These are 750 metre grids to be a more strategic scale, so we can understand, well, where are the areas where we would want people to go to in the future? Where are the areas where if people go to there, we need to do work to make sure they are not going to harm Cannock Chase. So there it is, and there's the SAC boundary, so you can even see the SAC itself is not uniformly red. There are some parts of the SAC, say down in Brindley Heath, where just due to the topography and due to the other factors around it, it is actually more robust than some areas. So that's not saying carpet blank, no one should visit the SAC. Far from it. And this is also a look at the car parks all across Cannock Chase. So this is broken up by people who own it. We have all these car parks. So we have 120 car parks on Cannock Chase. 120 car parks on Cannock Chase. It is a ridiculously large amount of car parks. Some car parks are huge, like the ones we have at the Forest Commission, some and at National Trust. And some car parks are tiny, only space for a single car. There is no real organisation. There was no real plan to the car parking on Cannock Chase. It's just occurred organically over decade after decade after decade of people doing little things, thinking really only about themselves and within their own land boundary, and not considering what's happening elsewhere. This is not a holistic approach. We also looked at the footpaths. So these are the rights of way, the legal rights of way in Cannock Chase. These are the actual footpaths on Cannock Chase. So you can see we have threefold the number of actual footpaths, or people making permissive paths, as we call them, non-legal paths on Cannock Chase, compared to what is recognised on the definitive map. And you can see all this proliferation here, slices here in the SAC where the heathland is cut. You've got this huge big area of beautiful heathland, this landscape of heathland, sliced into ever tinier and tinier and tinier pieces. So to understand Cannock Chase, we also had to do a lot of on-ground work and ground auditing, and going out and actually seeing for the first time what was there. To take you through what we did, and how we did it, and what we found, I'll pass over to Christy.
Thank you.